Morning and welcome to another video. Today's lesson, we're following in 2D shapes. We're going to keep going and we're going to talk about symmetry. Now, I'm sure you've heard about symmetry before in your other grades, but today and this year, we're going to be talking about it a little bit differently. Now, we're going to not only be talking about symmetry, but rotational symmetry, which is a little bit different. So the two terms we're going to use today are reflective symmetry and rotational symmetry. And I'm going to go through those and I'm going to give you some examples and then I'm going to give you a worksheet. Now, the tricky thing is we'd already chosen to do 2D shapes to start the semester. This isn't necessarily the easiest topic to teach through online learning because quite a lot of it you need to actually see it and move it around and measure angles. So we're going to do our best. But one thing I would suggest is when you're doing the worksheet, draw whatever shapes on the worksheet, draw it onto a piece of paper and actually rotate it around, because just doing it with your head, our brains are not necessarily always the best at knowing what something would look like when it's turned upside down. So it's really important that you actually have a piece of paper in front of you and you actually rotate it around. Otherwise, you might make a mistake. Anyway, let's get to it. So our video, we'll go through reflective symmetry. Now, reflective symmetry is when something has like a mirror image of something and it has one line of symmetry. So I'll go through that in a sec, but basically it looks the same on both sides. And if you fold it together, it would look the same. Whereas rotational symmetry would be when you turn the shape around, it continues to look like the same shape. Okay. There are slight differences and you'll see what I mean. So let's go through some different examples of what would be reflective symmetry and what would be rotational symmetry. So let's start with this shape. Now, this is a happy face. And if we're looking at whether this shape is symmetrical or not, it is. The face is the same on both sides. And if you're going to draw a line to cut it down the middle and fold it in half, it would look the same on both sides. However, if you were going to take that shape and turn it around, it doesn't matter which way you turn it, it doesn't look the same until it gets up like this. Same as a love heart. A love heart like this has one line of symmetry running through it, but it doesn't matter how you rotate this shape, it doesn't look the same. Whereas rotational symmetry, if you got a shape like this, that is an attempt at an equilateral triangle, we can see that it looks like this. However, when you move like that, it also looks the same. And when you move like that, it also looks the same. So an equilateral triangle actually has 3 lines of rotational symmetry, which basically means you can rotate it 3 times and it'll look exactly the same. Some shapes have lots and some shapes are still rotational symmetry, but not as many. I'll give you an example. This is a square. We're going to draw a dot up in the side so we know where we're starting from and where we're going to finish. It's really important to use a dot because otherwise you just keep rotating and count like six different rotational symmetries, but it's only got 4 sides, which isn't possible. Let's stick with it like this. Okay, so that looks exactly the same. Let's rotate it once, 2, 3, 4, and now we're back to the start. So it has 4 lines of rotational symmetry. I'll just leave it like that. Okay, 4 lines of rotational symmetry because I could rotate it 4 times and it looked exactly the same. Whereas if you had a rectangle, right, that is 1. That is not the same. That does not look like the same shape. Whereas this, that's the same there. It looks exactly the same as the one at the start. Whereas that's not the same. So even though a rectangle does have rotational symmetry, it only has 2 lines of rotational symmetry. So rotational symmetry is when you turn the shape around and it looks exactly the same. How many times you could do it? So you could even have it like this, right? The same thing would be like this way up, portrait style. That looks the same as that. So it's got 2 lines of symmetry the other way. Okay, so whichever side, it doesn't matter where it is, how many lines, how many times can you rotate it and it have the same shape? Let's go through some more. Let's pick this shape, okay? Now, I'm going to use a second sheet just so we can have it up the top so you remember what it looks like, right? So I'm going to leave the top one so that when we rotate the bottom one, you can see whether it looks the same, okay? No, 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 no. So this shape has reflective symmetry because you could fold this shape in half, right? And it would be the same on both sides. But it does not have rotational symmetry. Let's go this one. Okay. I'll put a little thing up the top so I know. Okay. So that's got to look exactly the same as that. One. That does look the same. So this shape does have rotational symmetry. There's 2 lines of rotational symmetry. Okay. Let's pick another one. Let's choose, well, I think we already chose this one. Let's choose it like this, okay? Okay, ready? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 4 lines of rotational symmetry. This is a perfect example. A square is a perfect example of a shape with rotational symmetry. Let's choose a little one a bit harder, okay? All right. Remember, it's got to look exactly the same. So I should start it looking exactly the same. See, this shape is a deceptive one, and this is where you're going to get tricked because some shapes look like they're going to look exactly the same, but it's not until you actually draw it on a piece of paper and actually able to turn it that you realize whether it does or doesn't. So let's see how we go. Ready? That. I'm going to be honest, that does not look like the same shape. The sides look longer to me. Maybe it's hard, right? Your brain starts to deceive you sometimes and it doesn't look the same, but it might be. No, it doesn't look the same. Okay, but that does. Oh, does it? Yeah, it does. So it has 2 lines of rotational symmetry, but it doesn't have 4. But on first look, you might think it does, but I do feel like maybe it does. It's a very tricky one. I'm saying it doesn't. All right, let's use a couple more. We'll go through these ones quickly. Okay, ready? Okay, 1, no, 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 no. So this shape has reflective symmetry, but not rotational symmetry. Maybe we'll do 1 more or 2 more. Let's do 2 more. All right. Okay. To be honest, I'm not even sure this shape has any symmetry at all. I don't think it does. I think it's got no symmetry at all because that shape can't be even on both sides. So none. Let's go with the last one, which is like a cross shape. Okay. Let's start them off like that. Okay. It's got to look exactly the same as that. This is where my brain's starting to play tricks on me. Is that the same? I think it is. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4. So this shape has rotational symmetry. Even if you do it like that, it would still have 4 lines of symmetry. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes it doesn't matter which way you're doing it. Okay. Now the one last question I would get would be, what would happen if you had a circle that's not drawn that bad? The answer to that would be it has an infinite number of rotational symmetry because infinite number of little changes, it still looks the same. So if you do get a circle question, the answer would be an infinite number of lines of symmetry. All right. I hope that has helped. Please let me know if this style of video making has been beneficial for you. It's something I'm trying out. So let me know if you think this is a more helpful way of me doing it. So remember, reflective symmetry can fold once, like it's got the mirror image. Rotational symmetry, even when you rotate the shape, it still continues to look the exact same. All right. Make sure you cut it out or make sure you draw it yourself. Please, please don't look at the computer and try and see in your head what would that look like if you turn it around. I just don't think it's going to be helpful. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.